So on Tuesday, a missile struck Poland, a direct consequence of the war in Ukraine. We witnessed the first fatalities on NATO turf. Initially, all fingers pointed at Russia. The event raised fears of a direct NATO intervention in the war. So much so that World War III was trending for a while on Twitter. Thankfully, that didn't happen. The fog of war has now settled. But what happened yesterday has exposed the divisions between Ukraine and the West. Let me explain. It began with Zelensky's statement. He was loud and clear. The missile that struck Poland was Russian and not Ukrainian, he said. Take a listen.
I have no doubt that this is not our missile, not our strike. There is no sense for me not to trust them. I went through war with them and with you.
Zelensky's initial response was an emphatic no. But in this instance, his allies disagreed with him. Let's now look at those reactions one by one. First, NATO. It says the missile was fired by a Ukrainian air defense system, and it was fired in self-defense.
It's most likely Ukrainian air defense systems or missiles. But again, this is not Ukraine's fault. That missile doesn't have the characteristics of an attack. And therefore, that explains also why the reactions were as they were.
Poland agrees. The Polish president, Andrzej Duda, said the strike was an unfortunate accident. Even the United States, which is the biggest supporter of Ukraine, agrees. Listen in.
Our information supports what President Duda said earlier in his preliminary assessment, was that this was most likely a result of a Ukrainian air defense missile. But we'll let the investigation play out here.
Of course, only a comprehensive investigation can clear this up. But you see, Poland, NATO and the United States, they all seem to be on the same page. They all believe that the missile was Ukrainian. And they all think that it hit Poland by accident. Guess who else agrees? Russia. Yes, Moscow is not challenging the West this time. In fact, the Kremlin has praised America.
Poland has all possible opportunity to report that those fragments were from a rocket of an S-300 system. At that moment, all specialists will understand that this rocket has nothing to do with the Russian military. There's a sense to pay attention to the American side, who are restrained and much more professional in their reaction.
That's some rare praise indeed. What's also rare is the difference of opinion between Ukraine and the backers in the West. They agree on almost everything. Now look at this. Yesterday, when Zelensky insisted the missile was Russian, US President Joe Biden dismissed his claims publicly so.
I have no reason to doubt the evening report by the commander of the Air Force, delivered to me personally, as well as to the commander-in-chief. I have no doubt that it was not our missile and not our missile strike. I have no grounds to doubt them. We have been fighting the war together, alongside them and you.
Mr. President, what's your reaction to President Zelensky saying that the missiles that landed in Poland were not Ukrainian? That's not the evidence.
What happened in front of the international press, perhaps, that forced the Ukrainian president to rethink? He has reached out to his allies again.
Ukraine's position is very clear. We strive to establish all the details, every fact. That is why we need our specialists to join the work of the international investigation and for us to get access to all the data available to our partners and to the site of the explosion.
A call for an international probe. Did Zelensky concede there that his first assessment could have been wrong? Obviously, we shouldn't jump to conclusions. But there is good reason why Zelensky doesn't want a rift with the West right now. This is a crucial time in the war. Winter is coming. The Russian forces are on retreat. Zelensky cannot risk losing his diplomatic and military supporters. He'll be handing Russia their greatest advantage. After all, the united Western front against Russia is Ukraine's biggest asset. The West has collectively sanctioned Russia. They are arming Ukraine against the Russian military. They are giving tactical and diplomatic support. Any differences, like the one we witnessed yesterday, could drive a wedge between Kyiv and the West. And Russia realizes that, so much so that it has intensified its attacks against the West.
It was Ukrainian missiles that crossed into Polish territory, launched by Ukrainian air defense systems. This means that this is not just an intentional attempt of disinformation, but a conscious attempt to involve NATO, which is conducting a proxy war with Russia and Ukraine, to involve it into direct conflict with our country.
Now that's a reference to the comments by Western leaders. Since yesterday, we have seen a flurry of reactions. Yes, American and European leaders did say that the missile could have been Ukrainian. That helped in avoiding a further escalation. But the West is still defending Ukraine. Western leaders say that Kyiv has the right to respond if the Russians attack. But Ukraine's tough line is not helping its cause. Consider this tweet now. It is from Ukraine's foreign minister. He dismissed the claim that the missile was Ukrainian. In fact, he labeled it a conspiracy theory. Let us remember the jury is still out. It is not just missile strikes that raise the threat of an escalation. Off-the-cuff remarks too have the potential to cause the same level of damage. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.